You ever stand in the woods and feel like something's watching you? Something that doesn't make a sound, doesn't move, just waits. Welcome to Appalachia, or Appalachia as we say here in the Northeast. It's a place where the past isn't just preserved, it lingers, it breathes. Sometimes it swallows people whole. Stretching over 200,000 square miles from southern New York to northern Alabama, Appalachia is one of the most ecologically diverse, culturally unique, and eerily mysterious regions in the United States. Despite being home to millions, entire stretches of it feel untouched, like time just gave up. This was once an area vital to U.S. industry. Now, the region's virtually uninhabited. Why is that? I'm John Genoa, this is America's Strangest History. Let's take a trip through Appalachia, learn about the legends, the disappearances, spectral lights, and the question nobody's been able to answer. What's going on in Appalachia? It was June 14th, 1969. Father's Day weekend. 6-year-old Dennis Martin was camping with his family in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park near Spence Field. It was a family tradition. His father did these kinds of hikes before. It wasn't his first rodeo. At around 4:30 p.m., Dennis decided to play a harmless prank. He and the other kids, his brother and 2 other boys, planned to split up and jump out of the bushes to scare the adults. Setting their plan into motion, the other kids ran one way and Dennis ran the other. He was wearing a bright red shirt at the time. Sounds like a decent prank. Dennis never came back out like the other kids. In a matter of seconds, he vanished, completely, silently, in broad daylight with multiple adults within shouting distance. The initial search began almost immediately. Within hours, park rangers, volunteers, and eventually Green Berets were combing the area. Over the course of the next week, more than 1,400 people searched the park. Dogs, helicopters, infrared equipment. At its height, the operation was the largest search and rescue mission in National Park Service history. But here's where things get unsettling. Despite ideal weather on the first day and scores of experienced trackers on the ground, not one shred of evidence was ever found. No footprints, no torn clothing, no blood, not even disturbed foliage. It's like he kind of just vanished out of existence. Then there's the Key family, who were hiking a few miles away, and the same day Dennis went missing. They told park rangers that they saw a rough-looking man darting through the woods, barefoot, disheveled, carrying something over his shoulder. Their son even said it looked like a sack with something or someone struggling inside. Despite this pretty alarming report, the FBI and park officials dismissed the sighting as unrelated. Now, the case remains open. Dennis Martin was never found. No bones, no belongings, no answers. For years, stories have circulated that something else might be living in the Smokies. Something watching. Something that takes. Now let's head east to Brown Mountain, North Carolina. It's a low ridge in the Pisgah National Forest that's become one of America's most enduring supernatural mysteries. Since at least the 1200s, unexplained lights, glowing orbs, flickers, full-bodied floating globes, they've been seen hovering over and around the mountain. Native Cherokee spoke of ghost warriors marching through the valley after the Great Battle. Early settlers in the 1700s wrote about mysterious fires on the ridges where no campfires should ever have been. These weren't just hallucinations. The lights have been photographed, filmed, and formally investigated multiple times. In 1913, a U.S. Geological Survey study concluded that the lights were reflections of train headlights. Case closed. Except a massive flood destroyed the rail lines shortly after, and the lights kept coming. So much for the conclusions of that Geological Survey study. In the 1920s, a second investigation was launched. This time, it's swamp gas or some misidentified starlight. But let's be real here. There are no swamps on Brown Mountain. Also, starlight doesn't float 20 feet off the ground and move sideways. Not on this planet, at least. Eyewitnesses describe orbs hovering, darting, splitting in two, changing color, usually white, blue, or orange. Some say the lights respond to noise like shouts or honks. Others report electronics malfunctioning nearby. More recently, physicist and engineer William T. Powers tried to recreate the lights using experimental instruments. He couldn't. Even NASA has weighed in on this, but can't offer a definitive answer. The lights appear unpredictably, sometimes several times a week, sometimes not for months. People from all walks of life are seeing them. We've got hikers, rangers, locals, tourists. We can go on and on and on. So, what are they? Energy? Spirits? atmospheric anomalies, or, as some fringe theorists suggest, maybe openings in space-time. Whatever they are, the Brown Mountain lights aren't going away anytime soon. Nobody's been able to explain them, including NASA. Let's move to North Fayetteville, West Virginia, Christmas Eve, 1945. George and Jenny Sodder lived in a 2-story frame house with their 10 children. That night, a fire broke out too fast. George and Jenny escaped with 4 of the kids. The other 5 were assumed to have died in the fire, trapped upstairs in the house. But here's where things get weird. No remains were found, not even bones. No teeth. A state fire marshal later said that the blaze wasn't even hot enough to cremate 5 bodies. And then the strange phone call that came in just hours before the fire. A woman asking for someone who didn't live there. Laughing in the background. A van spotted outside the home in the days leading up to the fire. The Sodder's ladder, normally propped up against the house, found thrown in a ditch 75 feet away. Even stranger, Jenny Sodder's hairbrush and family photos gone. In the 1950s, a woman from Charleston claimed she'd overheard conversation in a bar. The Sodder Children? Yeah, they were taken. One of them's in Italy. Years later, the family received a photograph in the mail. A man resembling one of the missing sons, Louis, now an adult. On the back, a cryptic message. Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. A90132 or 35. The FBI declined to investigate. George Sodder spent the rest of his life following leads across the country. He died in 1969. The billboard with the children's photos stood on Route 16 for decades, and still, no bodies, no arrests, no closure. Was it kidnapping, a cover-up, a case of mistaken identity and trauma, or is this yet another Appalachian mystery that defies explanation? Appalachia's got a lot of stories. People living deep in the woods, away from towns, off the grid. They're called feral people in some online forums. Locals say off-gridders, while many of them are just survivalists or rural folk. Others are rumored to be something else. Miners report strange howls at night, campsites that vanish without a trace, and paths that seem to appear and disappear between trees. If that's not weird enough, how about secret religious sects descended from isolated communities, practicing rituals passed down for generations and untouched by mainstream religion? Reminds me of the premise of several horror movies I've seen. Appalachia holds rumors of underground tabernacles, places where outsiders aren't welcome and don't come back. Now, are all these stories true? Of course not. They come from somewhere, right? And they persist for a reason. When you add the terrain, the narrow hollows, the mist-shrouded ridges, miles between towns, and no cell service, I can imagine who or what chooses to live far removed from civilization. So why is Appalachia so mysterious? Because it's old. Because it's isolated. Because it remembers things that the rest of the country forgot. It's a place where the boundary between what happened and what might have happened gets blurred by memory and by mystery. Disappearances, lights, fires that leave no ash, footsteps on empty trails, whispers in caves. That's Appalachia. And this is America's Strangest History. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and try to remember some secrets remain hidden for a reason.